All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Darren from Merit Travel. Thank you for joining our virtual travel talk this afternoon. We're going to start things off. We'll still let people roll in. I'm still happy to see the participant counts kind of going up like a ticker. So that's really exciting to see how many people are coming online and joining us today. I wish I was actually in my Zoom background right now, and that's Halong Bay. But like you all, we're sitting in our homes right now, relaxing. So we're hoping that this afternoon we'll be able to take you on a little virtual journey to Vietnam and share some of our wonderful travel stories and photos from my time and our colleague's time, Gary from G Adventures in Vietnam. So as I said, my name is Darren. I am one of the managers for Merit Travel, and I'm also our corporate responsibility rep. I am joined with our global purpose specialist, Gary Armstrong from G Adventures. And we have Christina Boyce, our VP of Sales for Merit Travel. She's online as well too. She's going to be managing the chat for anybody that has any questions. Just a couple housekeeping items. This is a new world for us with virtual travel talks. So as everyone's probably been on multiple Zoom sessions over the past few months, we all just ask that everyone be placed on mute. And if you have any questions, you can send them through to the chat. And then at the end, Christina will come online and we will answer all of the questions. One of the things with Zoom is we can't control your volume. So there are a couple of videos in the presentation. So if you can't hear us or if something is a little bit too loud, just use the volume functions on your own computer to turn things up and turn things down. Real quickly before we get started, for those people that might be new to Merit Travel, I just wanted to take a quick second to tell you a little bit about who we are. Merit Travel is a full-service travel company that we connect our people with exceptional travel experiences all around the world. We do anything from adventure travel to hosted trips, cruises, long-stay vacations, golf getaways, pretty much anything that you can dream of, we could probably get you there. Our physical locations right now, as with many businesses across the country, they are closed, but our 100 plus consultants across the country are still available during regular business hours to answer your inquiries, questions by phone and email. Even if you just wanted to call us up and talk about Vietnam or a trip that you might be dreaming about in the near future, our consultants are here for you and happy to chat. And to connect with one of our consultants, if you don't currently have one yet, you can visit our website, merittravel.com, and you can kind of pinpoint where you are in the country, and they'll be able to connect you to the nearest consultant. This is part of a series of travel talks. So obviously we're here today learning about touring in Vietnam. Coming up, we have a European river cruise session with Viking Cruises, cycling tours with Exodus Travel, Arctic with Adventure Canada. That's one of my top trips that I've gone on. I went on a couple of years ago. Italy and Iceland with Colette. And then we have a special presentation by the Israel Ministry of Tourism. If you want to sign up for them, you can visit our website again on the calendar. And then after this talk, we will send out the dates and information for the coming up talks as well too. So that's it for me for right now. I'm going to pass things over to my colleague, Gary Armstrong, who is going to tell you a little bit about who G Adventures is. I've traveled personally with these guys about 5 or 6 times. I was supposed to be in Colombia with them in April, but I'm here today with you guys to tell you all about my past trip with Vietnam, which was my last trip with G Adventures that we absolutely loved. So, Gary?
Cool, thank you, Darren. Yes, thank you everybody for taking the time out of your lunchtime to learn a little bit more about G Adventures and travel with Darren and I to Vietnam, a place that we've both been to in the past and are really excited to introduce you to. So at the start, I'll do a really brief introduction to G Adventures. I'll talk about why we travel at G, this idea of travel being a force for good. Talk a little bit about how we travel, so what small group adventure tours look like and our travel styles. And then we'll take you to Vietnam and cover some of the highlights of journeys through that destination. And then we'll have time at the end for questions as well. So without further ado, I want to talk about the elephant in the room. So, you know, the entire industry has been impacted by the COVID-19 global health crisis. So although we can't travel right now, it doesn't mean we can't dream of travel and learn about the ways that the entire industry and governments and peoples around the world are working to mitigate the risk and make sure that the opportunity to travel is there for us in the future. At G Adventures, we're ensuring that we're providing flexibility when it comes to making those bookings, so you can book with confidence and make changes up to 14 days prior to departure for trips departing before the end of this year, and making changes up to 30 days prior for trips departing until May of next year as well. So we want to build in that flexibility because we don't know how the situation is going to change over the coming months. And we want to make sure that as soon as we are safely able to do so, we are able to begin operating trips, but make sure that we're still nimble and able to react to changing situations in different destinations around the world as well. We do have our new travel with confidence policy. So a range of different things that G Adventures is doing to ensure health and safety of our travelers and for the people in the destinations that we visit. You know, making sure that we are having enhanced cleaning procedures on our vehicles, working with our hotel suppliers to make sure that, that we're mitigating the risk of transfer of COVID-19 during this unprecedented crisis. For more information on these policies, you know, please reach out to your Merit travel agent. And you can learn more about what we're doing to make sure that we're able to safely operate trips in the coming months. So why do we travel at G Adventures? This is core to the reason why we exist as an organization. G Adventures, we are a Canadian company. We were founded by this guy. His name's Bruce. He's still the owner and operator of G Adventures. He grew up in Calgary. He moved to Toronto to found this business in the 1990s. And he did so with this dream, this idea that travel and tourism can be a force for good, that just by going on a vacation, that can be your way of giving back, that one day travel and travelers would save the world, that the travel industry is a fantastic mechanism for wealth redistribution. The industry takes some of the wealthiest people in the wealthiest countries in the world to visit some of the poorest people in the poorest countries in the world. So why can't more of the money that people spend on vacation, why can't that stay in local destinations and lead to positive outcomes for the people in those places? So that's the reason we exist at G. The way that we make this a reality is through G for Good. So all of the stuff that G Adventures does in the background to ensure that simply by going on vacation, you are having a positive impact on that place. So looking after the economic sustainability of our trips through our Ripple score, ensuring that we're adhering to responsible travel policies around wildlife, interaction with kids and with indigenous peoples, and Planetera, our nonprofit organization. The Ripple score is a metric. It's a number that shows you the percentage of the money that you spend with G that is staying in that local destination. As a company, our average is 93. So the vast majority of the money that you're spending for in-trip costs at G Adventures is going towards local suppliers and directly impacting and benefiting the people in that place. We have our animal welfare policy, ensuring that there's no interactions with wildlife on any G Adventures trip that could lead to unintended negative consequences for those animals. No elephant rides, no tiger temples, no shark baiting and diving on any G Adventures itineraries. We also work closely with indigenous communities all over the world and want to ensure that travelers and those communities understand that travel is an opportunity for cultural exchange. This is not a commodity. It's the chance to go and learn from those peoples in the way that they want to share their knowledge and have that cultural exchange, and make sure, again, that we're not having any unintended negative consequences on those peoples and places by having our travelers visit and learn about their cultures. And finally, G Adventures was the first international travel company to be certified as child safe by the Child Safe Movement in 2019, ensuring that there is no way that our travelers and our operations can in any way have a negative consequence on youth, especially at-risk youth around the world. Again, just leading these policies within the industry to make sure that we're helping to educate travelers and the industry itself on these different matters. If you have questions about any of these policies, please let me know, put them in the chat box, and I can discuss more about the way that we're ensuring that we're sustainable as an industry. Finally, our Planetera Foundation. So this is the nonprofit wing of G. This is how we turn travel into impact. It is the proactive way that G Adventures is engaging with individuals, organizations, other NGOs, so that they can build and expand businesses that tap into the tourist economy. If you want more information on the 100 or so projects that have been started and funded through Planetara and G Adventures and the donations and activities of our travelers, visit planetara.org and also speak to your Merit representative as well. I know Darren is going to talk about a couple of the Planetara projects that we've, from his personal experiences, visited in Vietnam as well. Ultimately, G Adventures has become the world's largest adventure travel company in the world, not despite of our commitment to economic sustainability, social sustainability, environmental sustainability around the world. It is because of these things that we've seen this growth. And it just proves that doing the right thing and doing the profitable thing, these aren't mutually exclusive ideals. So this is the reason why we go, this idea that travel can be a force for good. But what does it actually look like to be on a G Adventures trip? How do we go and see the world? What does community tourism look like? And the answer with G Adventures is that we work in small groups. So groups that average 10 to 12 people, who are able to, visit these locations and have culturally immersive experiences in a more intimate way, because you're not waiting for everybody to get off of the bus. You're not filling up that restaurant or that cultural space when you're arriving in that destination. So also the ability to build in more free time, to have more flexibility, because you are a smaller group, and our chief experiences officers, our local guides, are able to help you get the most out of your free time and your time in the destination. We also appeal to a broad range of different types of travelers, different age groups of travelers. The way I break this beautiful pie chart down is that about 1/3 of our travelers are millennials, 18 to 30 somethings. So 2/3 of our travelers are not that. And I know, Darren, you wanted to talk a bit about your experiences on groups as well.
Yeah, like I said earlier, like I've done about 5 or 6 of these G Adventures tours, and the mix of travelers is actually one of my favorite things, because everybody going on a G Adventures tour, you all kind of you're going into the trip with the same mentality and the same mindset of sustainable travel. So you automatically have that bond with the travelers, no matter the age. And it opens up the opportunity a lot for multi-gen travel. And one of my favorite G Adventures trips that I went on was, I actually went with my dad, and I'm obviously much younger. And so with the mixed age groups, I was able to spend time at night with other people, other like-minded age travelers as myself. And then my dad would go to bed, and, and he would be able to hang out with some of the older people on the tour as well too. So it really gives a great opportunity with the mixes of ages to blend and get along with many other people. And yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And we're able to let you know as well, if you're booked on a future G Adventures trip, you can contact your Merit agent, and they'll be able to give you rough estimates and basics of the other travelers who are on your trip as well. If you have any, if you want to know who else is traveling with you through that journey. And then, at G Adventures, usually versus talking about demographics, we talk a lot more about psychographics, the psychology of the people who want to take our trips. And part of the reason we do that is we've broken our trips down into styles of travel. So each of our different styles of travel encompasses the whole world. The idea is, how do you want to go and see that destination, and what do you want your trip to look like? We have everything from our 18 to 30 something trips, for budget conscious travelers between the ages of 18 and 39, to our National Geographic journeys, where there is more of a focus on comfortable accommodation, on additional educational content from National Geographic experts in their fields in these regions. We have active trips for people who want to hike, bike, kayak, spend more time outside while they're in destination. We have marine itineraries, our wellness trips, local living rail, family itineraries for those with younger children who want to go and show those their kids how different people in different parts of the world live, and how we are this beautiful world of many different cultures. And so we're going to start talking about Vietnam, and Vietnam is one of those destinations where we have a wide range of different travel styles within this one destination. So if you want to travel with a multi-generational family, if you've got kids, 6, 7, 8 and up, then you can take one of our family journeys or our National Geographic journeys. We have the active itineraries in the region as well. The 18 to 30 somethings, longer classic journeys as well, where you get to travel for 29 days through Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, and Laos. And so lots of opportunity to explore the region in more detail. Today, we're going to focus on the classic Vietnam, Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh City, as well as the National Geographic Journeys itineraries, because those are the ones that Darren and I have been on, and they also happen to be a couple of the most popular itineraries as well. This screenshot was taken the other day from our website, and you will notice that a lot of these itineraries are on sale. We have a global sale running at the moment. Everything except our National Geographic Journeys and National Geographic Family Journeys are on sale for 15% off for departures until May next year. And so, if we are inspiring you to travel to this region, which I hope we do because it's such a beautiful part of the world to visit, then contact your Merit travel agent because, we do have promotions to make sure that you're securing great prices to travel to this region as well. So I wanted to give you a little introduction and history of Vietnam, and maybe Darren, you could talk about this image.
Yes, so this image was part of a optional excursion to cycle through rice fields. My wife actually went on this trip with me, and this is actually her photo. She did the cycling trip. I believe it was about 42 degrees that day, so I kind of chickened out and opted for air conditioning that day. But she went. She took lots of great photos. So this is actually the oldest couple in Vietnam. So part of the excursion, you actually get to go to, I believe you get to go to their home. You get to meet them. They get to tell you a little bit about who they are and their history, and you just learn about the local way of life, and that's what was a really unique kind of favorite part of the trip for me.
And you'll see throughout this presentation that, it's easy to say culturally immersive experience, but meeting the oldest couple in Vietnam and learning about their lives and the lived history that they've seen over the preceding decades is just, it's one of those moments. Vietnam, often in North American mindsets, we focus around the conflict of the 1950s and 60s and early 70s. Vietnam, after unification at the end of the 1700s, was colonized by the French at the end of the 1800s. And so they lived under occupation under the French. They fought for their independence after the end of the Second World War. And that led to the partitioning of the country into North and South in 1954, which is the beginning of the Civil War that became what is locally known there as the American War, of course, which is known in North America as the Vietnam War. And that conflict raged for over 20 years, culminating in 1974, and which led to a period of communism, which led to economic stagnation and deprivation. And it continued to be an extremely difficult time to live in Vietnam until the mid-1980s, where the communist government began reforming the economy and opening the economy up, whereby it was able to be fully integrated into the global economy in the year 2000. And since then, it's really thrown off the shackles of its history and of war and bloodshed, and has become one of the world's fastest growing economies for the last 20 years. It's known for spectacular food, Vietnamese cuisine, and also the variety of cuisine as you travel from the north through to the south. A real variety of different cultures in these different regions of the country, and just the most beautiful landscapes and cityscapes, as well as UNESCO World Heritage Sites. And I hope some of the pictures that we showed today can help to convey a little bit of what life is like in Vietnam. For me, I've had the good fortune to travel to many places around the world, but it's just one of the most photogenic places on earth. It is a truly beautiful destination, and that beauty is just mirrored by the warmth and hospitality of the people in the region as well. And so for the vast majority of our journeys, you start in Hanoi, which is the capital of what was the North. It's a very hustle and bustle city, and this is where you'll start to have that initial culture shock and the difference in temperature compared to where you've come from, and your first opportunity to really experience the food in the region as well. And Darren, if you wanted to talk us through some of your pictures from your time in Hanoi.
The food in Vietnam definitely was probably one of the biggest highlights, apart from the history. In Hanoi, we had the opportunity to do a street food tour. So the nice thing about the street food tours is a lot of travelers can sometimes have a bit of hesitation as to what's a safe place to go and eat, where it has the best food, where it's got the best pho. With the street food tour, we were taken to some of the best restaurants. One of the places that we stopped, if you look on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, This was a barbecue that we literally pulled up to this restaurant. We walked up, sorry, and we ordered all our food, and they put little stools out right on the sidewalk, and we were able to eat our dinner watching all the traffic and hustle and bustle all go by. It was one of the most kind of unique and exciting experiences that I had food wise. Above it, that's famous Vietnamese egg coffee. It sounds weird, but it's actually really good. The story behind it is they actually use egg white instead of coffee cream because that was easier to get back in the day. And the photo in the middle is part of my, I would say, one of my favorite things about traveling is just discovering new and exciting places to eat. When we were there, one of my Instagram followers saw that I was in Vietnam and they recommended a restaurant, and I plugged it into my Google offline maps, and we walked there, and it was this incredible restaurant where they bring you meat on a skewer, and they give you one demonstration as to how to eat this food, and then they walk away. Then you're on your own. So we sat there and we ate, I don't even know how much food, and then we got the bill, and it was maybe $7. So not only is the food amazing in Vietnam, it was really, really affordable. And food is one of my favorite things about travel. And even where I am in Ottawa, food is one of my favorite things to do is to go out and eat. And I like to say that traveling traveling and food is a bit of like a blessing and a curse, if you want to call it. Because once you go to a destination and you try, say, Vietnamese authentic food, it never tastes the same when you're back at home. So I say it's a blessing and a curse to be able to try the authentic food from destination, but then you always kind of shed a small tear when you go and you have the food locally because you'll have a memory and you'll remember where you were that time and just think, just quite isn't the same, but it's really good. So yeah, so food in Vietnam, again, I can't talk more about it because it's just absolutely incredible. I want to eat my screen right now.
You really can't pick anything bad in any restaurant when you go there. Our CEOs, your chief experience officer, is there to help with kind of guiding you to good restaurant selections and choices as well, and also you know the different local cuisine that's best to have in each different place. But the idea is, you know, embrace the bizarre, go out, try something new, and try the local cuisine because it's fantastic. There is a lot to do in Hanoi while you're there. The top left picture there, you're going to be staying in the French Quarter, which all of our the smaller properties, hotels that we use are very, very close to this giant, beautiful emerald lake in the center of Hanoi. And just spending some time to walk the streets and walk around that lake is fantastic. On the right there, there's the Temple of Literature, so the chance to go and experience some of the beautiful architecture of the region. Again, a very short walk from where you'll be staying. Just, you know, getting through the high streets, the hustle and bustle, exploring the back alleyways of Hanoi is, you know, it's just great to have that freedom to go out and explore by yourself. Maybe find a rooftop patio to sit and watch the world go by while you're in the region. To really get you to feel like you're in Vietnam, I'm going to play you a quick video as well. If your sound is turned up, I might recommend turning it down a little bit. Experience while I was there. So this is where the market stalls are all right next to the railroad tracks, and everybody, you know, packs all their stuff away when the train is coming and the horn is blaring, and then they quickly pack or put it all back out once the train is passed. From there, you know, you'll have some time in Hanoi and then have the chance on our National Geographic journeys and our active trips to travel to Mae Chau. And so it's about an hour and a half in a private vehicle to get you out to Mae Chau, to have the opportunity to see what life is like outside of the major city of Hanoi, and see what more rural life is like. This is actually the image of the hotel, the properties that we use for our National Geographic journeys itineraries. And it's just beautiful. We went at the end of November and just saw the rice harvest. We just pulled over and learned about what the process is for harvesting rice and had the chance to do it ourselves. Learned very quickly that you want to have long sleeves on when you're harvesting rice because that stuff just itches like crazy. But just, again, these cultural immersive experiences of just seeing what life is like in different parts of the destination and exploring it fully. So a second thing that we're able to do, when you're traveling on the active trips, you'll actually do a homestay at a small community in Mae Chau. And we had the chance to go and have a fantastic meal at this local homestay. And then they treated us to some traditional dancing as well. And again, I have a very short video, again, just to give you that chance to really get to Vietnam and see what life is like in these beautiful rural places. And it's experiences like these that go to the heart of what it means to experience local culture, to have that exchange, and to know and see how just by going and visiting a place, you're helping to preserve that culture and provide alternative sources for revenue for people in different parts of the destination. So from Mae Chau, you'll then have the chance to transfer over to Ha Long Bay. And Darren had the best pictures of Ha Long Bay, so I'll let him describe a little bit of the scenery and the things that you're able to do when you travel to this region of Vietnam as well.
Yes, I read about Ha Long Bay before going to Vietnam, and I was like, I wonder if I could get that iconic photo. And lo and behold, this is a photo that that we took in this trip that we went on. We had the opportunity to actually stay on one of the junk boats, so we had the opportunity to be fully immersed in the bay, watch the sun set and watch the sun rise. The term junk boat probably can sound like it might not be the nicest type of accommodation, but it was actually really great. On board, everybody had a cabin. I believe our cabin was air conditioned. So with this particular trip, it was only our group on board. So it was only the 16 of us on that entire boat. So we had lots of space to be able to enjoy our time on board and watch the hustle and bustle of all the other boats going by. And then at night, we had some of the freshest seafood I'd probably ever eaten right on board. And I believe we had a little karaoke session at night. And just a great opportunity to bond with everybody on board because it was the start of the trip. So it was a great opportunity to get to know everyone. And it was absolutely so comfortable. And the service on board was fantastic. And like one of the other highlights of the trip as well too.
That's my exact experience as well. We're very lucky as an operator because we have small groups. It's only ever going to be your group that's on these vessels. And the food on board is spectacular. While in Ha Long Bay, you have the chance to go and get off of the vessel and visit some of these spectacular cave networks that are in the region as well. And so the chance to marvel at the interior of these beautiful limestone casts that you can see in the previous images and also behind Darren's head as well at the moment with his amazing backdrop. And so, this is what it looks like to travel with G as well. You're on the vessel, you're off the vessel, there's time for relaxing, there's time for exploration, you're learning as you go, as your expert CEO, your guide is leading you through this destination. And again, you're a small group, 10, 12, maximum 16 people as you're traveling. And so it really is that chance to bond with the other travelers as you go through. Once you come back from Ha Long Bay, you arrive in Hanoi again, and on certain itineraries, we will fly you down to Hue. But on many of our itineraries, you have the experience of the overnight train. And again, Darren, this is one of your images, if you want us to lead us through the experience on that, that mode of transport.
Yeah, so local transport definitely was an interesting experience in all of Asia. Some are better, some are worse. But the train system in Vietnam was great. And we did have an overnight train, and it was a really fun and interesting way to get to and from a destination. Instead of flying, you're going to be able to be on board with your fellow travelers. This one here is myself, my wife, and my friends that were on this particular trip. And I've taken a few of these overnight trains in my travels. And the highlight is the first thing you do before the trip is everyone goes to the local grocery store with your guide. You pick up some food and some snacks and everything like that you want on board. And then throughout the night, everybody kind of hangs out in their own cabin, or people will hang out in the hallways. You meet other travelers. I remember on one of my overnight trains, we met the lady that was above the bunk, and she kept giving us some of her favorite local snacks that she brought on board. And we got to, through some Google Translate and sign language, we really got to know this other traveler that we met on board. It's just being able to connect with other travelers was really fun. And you go to sleep, and then you wake up in a completely new city, which was exciting and a fun way to travel.
And then you arrive in Hue. So Hue is the ancient imperial capital of Vietnam. You know, when unification happened at the end of the 1700s, Hue was the center of that, and they built this beautiful imperial city. It was, you know, it was one very jam-packed day when I was in Hue, and it was one of the real highlights of the trip. Lots of different temples and architecture and history to learn about while you're there. You know, engaging with the local people and learning about their way of life. You've moved from the relatively austere north and traveled into the heart of Vietnam, and it feels like a very different culture when you arrive in Hue and when you travel further down to Hoi An. It's almost like a different country. Absolutely beautiful. The chance to go and visit the imperial palace that was, you know, created, prior to the French occupation, heavily damaged and destroyed, both by the fight for independence from the French, and then again during the Vietnam-American War as well. But the beautiful wide landscapes, the chance to marvel at this architecture and learn more about the imperial past of Vietnam and its continuous culture is one of the real highlights of traveling to this region. The properties that we use, again, very close to the imperial palace, but also to a large pedestrianized district. The chance to go and explore, to see the nightlife of the region and enjoy, you know, beautiful meals while you're there as well. And then you're traveling down the, you know, 2 hours roughly by vehicle to Hoi An to learn about and spend time in this beautiful historic city as well.
So Hoi An is known as the City of Lights, and the beautiful thing about it when we were there is from daytime to nighttime, it looks like you basically have traveled to a totally different destination. During the day, it's a little bit of a hustle and bustle with people in the shopping and markets, and Hoi An is kind of divided up into old city and new city. So we stayed in the new city, which was then about a 5-minute walk to the old city. And in the new city, there's lots of restaurants, again, to be able to experience all the amazing food and snacks and drinks and everything like that in Hoi An. But one of the highlights of Hoi An that I found was the tailors. It's kind of a little bit of a hidden gem. There's tailor shops all over Hoi An, and you could literally go in the morning and come back in the afternoon and have blazers, dresses, suit coats, custom made for you. And I made about 2 blazers. My wife made rain jackets, and the quality is absolutely phenomenal, and it gives you an opportunity to support some of the local seamstresses and some of the local stores while you're there.
It's the center of the textile industry in Vietnam and really of the world. It's one of the main drivers of that economic growth that I mentioned, and the chance to go and have something custom tailored in this town at the end of the kind of orientation walk with your CEO in the region, they'll often, it's the #1 request is, hey, where can I go and get something made? And there's many different recommendations and places you can visit of where to get clothes made. I feel like I also had some linen shirt and pants and things made. I should have been wearing it right now for this presentation. I apologize. But yeah, just the chance to go and explore and visit the town, but also, you know, learn and give back while there as well. Both Darren and I have had the opportunity to experience our Oodles of Noodles Planetera project. And again, Darren, if you wanted to kind of tell us a bit more about this, your experiences there.
Yeah, so earlier in the presentation, Gary mentioned about Planetera. So Planetera has various different charitable arm of G Adventures. And this particular program, Oodles and Noodles, it's a culinary program where they take at-risk youth from the streets and take them to culinary school, similar to as you would in Canada, teaching them the ins and outs of running a restaurant, cooking, serving, and many of the people that graduate from this program actually go on to work in many of the 5-star hotels in Vietnam. This particular one was a rice pancake making class. So this was my attempt at flipping a rice pancake. I think I was successful about 1 out of 3 times. It's a lot harder than we thought, but the opportunity to have a cooking lesson with these students that were so enthusiastic and so excited to have us. And then at the end, we got to try and cook all the food that we made. And we all did really, really well. For anybody that might be wondering about that crazy wild shirt that I'm wearing, one of the things you'll notice in Vietnam and a lot of places in Southeast Asia is these crazy print shirts. It's extremely hot in Vietnam, depending on the year time of year that you go. So you find I found myself every once in a while going and picking up one of these comfortable linen shirts. By the end of the trip, me and my friends pretty much had everybody except for 2 people dressed in pineapple and fruit clothing. So it was definitely fun to pick up these shirts. Again, I wish I would probably worn one of them today, but yes, definitely something fun that you can pick up along the way when you're in Vietnam.
So while you're in Hoi An, we spend a good amount of time there so that you do have time to get clothes made. Usually it's 2 or 3 days on different trips. And we spoke about the optional activities on this itinerary as well. So having the chance to go on a bike ride and, you know, see what life is like for the people in the region just surrounding Hoi An, and see where the food is coming from that you're eating in the restaurants in town. Also the opportunity to meet the oldest man in Vietnam, which, you know, that's the middle picture there is my CEO's son, who's kind of introducing us to the gentleman and finding out how his day is going and if he's okay, if he wants to, you know, meet the group and talk about, you know, his experiences during the, you know, living in Vietnam. And just, again, one of the most photogenic and beautiful places on the world, that warm people, hospitable people, and just both have its delicious food and then see where that food is coming from is fantastic. From there, we will travel from the idyllic and peaceful, quiet city of Hoi An by plane and travel to Ho Chi Minh City, or previously known as Saigon, the beating heart and economic hub of Vietnam. This is where the business takes place. This is what this area has helped to facilitate, that rapid growth and the alleviation of the poverty that was seen in Vietnam in previous decades. And so you could be in Toronto, you could be in Rio, you could be in any major capital around the world, Hong Kong. You know, this place is a big city, and you notice it in everything. Prices are higher in Ho Chi Minh City. It has more scooters on the road than any other part of the world, but also really beautiful rooftop patios and bars where you can look out over the entire city and see you know, just how much growth is happening and how much new building has been taking place over the last 20 years. So a chance to really contrast between you know, Hanoi and the north and the culture there, the kind of almost peaceful and resort style feel of the imperial city of Hue and Hoi An, to then come to the, you know, the beating heart of the country and see a new, completely different culture and style and way of living, all encapsulated in this one nation is fantastic. And then, you know, as part of your stay in Ho Chi Minh City and Saigon, we do travel to a region about an hour and a half outside of the city to the Cu Chi tunnels and learn more about the most recent conflicts, the Vietnam War there, and the, you know, this unique battlefield in that conflict. And Darren, again, you've got some personal experiences of your time there.
Yeah, so we did a visit to the Cu Chi tunnels. I guess it was educational and can be maybe a bit emotional experiences given the history of what actually went on there. We had the opportunity to walk the fields, and we had the opportunity also to go through some of the tunnels to have a firsthand experience of what it was like to go through. You could see the person on the right tunneling through, and that's me coming out of another tunnel. So you have local guides there that are going to teach you and tell you all about the history of the tunnels, what you're going through, what you're getting to see. So it was a really great educational and inspirational experience to be there. And they still had some of the artifacts and items from back in the day there that you could see. You could walk inside the bunkers, you can walk, like I said, into the tunnels. So it was definitely another highlight of Vietnam, and to be able to get out of the hustle and bustle of Saigon. That's good. Probably one of the more unique things about Vietnam is you can go from busy city to countryside within about an hour. So that was really great.
Thank you. So that kind of brings us to the end of a discussion of the different highlights of the different parts of Vietnam that you'll have the chance to visit on G Adventures trips. I mean, this is a very quick introduction, a small snapshot of what you'll be able to see and do while in the region. I know that Darren and I have and could talk at length about you know, the highlights for us of this journey, but just really wanted to give you the chance to see the beauty of this destination, and some of the different highlights of the trip as you go through. And now we wanted to talk about, you know, the important things for before your journey, if you're looking to go to this region. And luggage is always a big question that many of our travelers have. You know, less is more when you're traveling. We talked a bit about the weather. Depending on the time of year you're going, it is going to be relatively hot. And so, you know, that's going to help to reduce the amount of clothing that you need. You can do laundry throughout the journey as well. Our CEOs will be able to direct you as the best place to and help organize laundry, so that, you know, you're not necessarily having to do it at the hotel where things are usually a little bit more expensive. And then, you know, you don't have to backpack. Like, if you don't want to carry a backpack, you don't need to carry a backpack. I would recommend the smaller rolly luggage so that it's easy to lift on and off of vehicles, and it's not taking up too much room when you're on your junk boat, or if you're traveling by train. But definitely an opportunity to travel in comfort while you're there. And Darren, anything to add about the luggage situation when traveling through Vietnam?
Yeah, and one thing, if you don't have enough clothes and you don't want to do laundry, again, you could just buy Wild and Crazy fruit clothing, or you can get something made, and you could buy clothing all along the way that's extremely affordable. So if you pack a little bit light, not to worry, or if you forget anything, it's easy to get. But because there is some of the itineraries do have quite a bit of movement, you know, with trains and planes and vehicles. The smaller of a bag, the more kind of mobile of a suitcase, it's just going to make your life a little bit easier to kind of navigate as you're carrying the luggage in destination.
Yeah, so travel with what you're comfortable carrying, and only pack it 2/3 full, because you know you're going to be getting things while you're there that's going to take up that extra third of space in your suitcase. There's a few different travel tips that we wanted to speak to as well. So visas, as Canadian citizens, we do need visas to travel to Vietnam. That can be organized before you go. It's an electronic visa system that is very simple to use. Money in the region as well. So it's a very cash heavy society. We'll see if things change over due to the impacts of the current health crisis, but everybody's a millionaire in Vietnam. The local currency is the Viet Dong. And, you know, my recommendation is always to pull money out of the ATM when you arrive in the destination. Tell your bank that you're going, use your debit card, and that way you're not paying the fees to the banks here. You're just pulling it directly out of the ATM there. Darren, was there anything that you wanted to add for that one as well?
No, you hit the nail. It's exactly right. Like, my thing that I like to do is withdraw money from destination. Take the currency conversion once. Just make sure you let your bank know that you're traveling, and it's a nice way to safely control your money while you're in destination.
And there was an ATM in the arrivals hall in Hanoi. So it's, you know, you're not going to be stuck for cash as soon as you arrive. It is a different power system in Vietnam, so don't forget your travel adapter. These are tiny these days and have all the different accessories for USBs and those things as well. So you can keep your various electronic devices charged. Take your camera, take extra batteries for your camera, take extra memory cards for your camera. The videos and images, one of the real highlights for me of building this presentation was reliving the journey and going through all those photos. You know, for any medical questions, speak to your local travel doctor. You know, there are different vaccinations and medications that are recommended to be taken before traveling to this part of the world. And so just wanted to make sure that absolutely that you're speaking to a travel doctor if you have any you know, questions about traveling to this region. Yeah. Anything else, Darren, for kind of the travel tips and tricks?
I think that's really it. Like, I think, yeah, power is definitely an important thing. The visas, it's nice now because e-visas is relatively new. Before you had to send in your passport. Medical, yeah, definitely check with your travel doctor. Make sure you're updated with all your vaccines. Flights, you know, 8 months ago from Canada, it was relatively easy to get to Vietnam. All of us at Merit will be able to figure out the best kind of routings and options for you for whenever you are ready to start exploring taking a trip there. And tour extensions. This is one of our favorite things. So when I went on this particular trip, I only had time, fortunately, to do the trip that I did. It was about 9 or 10 days. I had to go to a wedding in Vancouver, and it was the same price for me to fly to Vietnam as it was for a round trip flight to Vancouver. So we decided to add Vietnam onto the trip and stop in Vancouver for the weekend, which made it a bit of a trip. But if you remember from the back in the early presentation, this arm of the trip that we went on is part of what's called the Indochina Loop. So you can do as short of a trip or as long of a trip as you really want to, or as you really have time. The full loop takes about 27 to 30 days. So if you have that amount of time, you can jump on, you can see all the countries in Southeast Asia all in one amazing 30-day epic adventure, or you can do it in pieces. So I'm hoping to go back and complete the rest of the loop in the near future. So with a Merit Travel Consultant, we can work with you to figure out how much you want to do. If you just want to stay and do a beach break, there are phenomenal beaches in and around Vietnam, and Phu Quoc, even in Hoi An. We actually did a day trip out to a beach, or we could fly over to Thailand to do some beach time, or if you want to do golf, you can work with us and tell us kind of what you're interested in, what you want to see, and we could tailor this G Adventures trip or the Vietnam tour to as long as you want it to be or as short. One of the highlights for people in this region definitely is a cruise on the Mekong. So there is an extension on this particular itinerary to go through the Mekong, and there's a whole bunch of other river cruise options that you can add on to this if you want to sail through the Mekong.
Amazing. And so I think that you've heard me mention it a couple of times, this idea of economic sustainability, of supporting local businesses, both in destination, but that also starts with working with local travel advisors to support the businesses here in Canada. I think now more than ever, it's really important to get the opinion of a travel professional, somebody who does this for a living. I joke all the time that, I don't cut my own hair, I don't do my own taxes, and I don't book my own travel, because there is a professional who can do that service for me much better than I can do it myself. And it gives you that opportunity to build a relationship with somebody within your community, as Merit is truly across the country, and work with experts who've been on these trips, who understand G Adventures, but also understand, all the different options that are available for you traveling to this destination, be it other travel styles within G or other organizations and other ways of seeing the destination. The world really is a beautiful place, and our hope is that people will take that opportunity when it's available to go experience the world and learn about other cultures and peoples, because it just has such a positive impact to you as an individual, and can have such a positive impact on the people in those destinations as well. So thank you so much for spending some time with us today as we introduce you a little bit to G Adventures, to Merit Travel, and to the beautiful nation of Vietnam. If you have any questions, then Darren and I are looking forward to answering those questions for you now as well.
Thank you so much. And again, just a reminder, please do type those questions in the chat box, and I will ask them on your behalf. So we do have a bunch of questions actually to kick this Q&A off. So maybe I'll start with you, Darren. One question was, can you combine this trip with a Mekong River cruise? I think you kind of answered that. Yes, you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And is that a really popular combination?
It's definitely one of the more popular combinations, and probably one of the disappointing things that I missed on my trip, because I couldn't take the extra 4 days off of work. So there was an option to do it, and I chose not to. But my friends, I had a few people on my particular trip that did stay on and do it. So you can do it with G Adventures, or there's a lot of other river cruise companies that Merit works with that does river cruises through the Mekong that we can easily add on to this.
Okay. And Gary, on G Adventures trips, such as this one, can dietary restrictions be accommodated, or how does G support that? Specifically, the question was regarding being vegan.
Absolutely. So we get this question often. And yeah, as long as we know in advance that you have dietary restrictions, it means that the CEOs can recommend particular restaurants where they know that those restrictions and needs are taken in the serious matter that's concerned, especially if they're allergies and things like that. When you're on the junk boats and other vessels and parts of the itinerary where G Adventures is able to kind of fully control the food, then again, we take those responsibilities extremely seriously. So absolutely, the answer is yes. For vegan and vegetarianism, it's the best thing because in many parts of the world, the traditional and local diet does not include large amounts of meat. And so, and you get the chance to try vegetables that are very different there compared to anywhere else. So I would say that those travelers who have those restrictions are even able to, to try the local cuisine in a different and unique way because of those restrictions. I'm not going to say that it enhances the tour, but it certainly doesn't hurt. And absolutely, local restaurants and your CEO can help with that.
Great. I know on my last G Adventures trip in Japan, our CEO, so the local guide, we had a few people with allergies and they wrote them in Japanese paper so that if they were going off on their own, they could just show the little note that said, hey, I'm allergic to XYZ, which was really, really helpful in addition to that. Darren, prices in US or Canadian?
They are priced in Canadian dollars, as long as I'm assuming everybody that's on the call today is in Canada. So yes, the prices are in Canadian dollars for the tours.
Okay, and Darren, I'll just follow up with you. Does the full month trip include the Mekong River cruise? I think you were talking about the Indochina Loop that was about 27 days. Does that include a Mekong River?
The 30-day, I don't believe, Gary, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe the 30-day one does, but that doesn't mean that if you do want to do the 30-day and you still want to do a Mekong cruise, you can still make that happen.
Yeah, the 30-day itinerary with that particular one, it's a number of different itineraries that are back to back and bound together so that you get that one continuous loop. To make a change to part of that, to do a couple of the itineraries to then have time on the Mekong River versus just transferring directly into Cambodia is something that we can, well, again, with the help of your travel agent, you can build in and change, and then rejoin a different group with the next stage in your journey. So definitely flexibility to make sure that you can kind of, get the experience that you want while you're there.
Okay, and Gary or Darren, but we'll start with you, Gary. When are the least hot months to travel to Vietnam? So if someone's looking to not be in the 50-degree weather, when should they travel?
So I looked this up prior to the talk because I wanted to make sure I got it right. So the spring between February and March is when it's going to be cooler. So cooler in the north. So, in and around 20, 25 degrees is a high and, lower than that as a low. So the spring is really when it's going to be coolest. Now down further south, once you get into Ho Chi Minh City, it's closer to the equator and it tends to be more equatorial in that it's almost constantly hot, but it is going to be cooler in those months as well. And then also October through December as well in their fall. For both of these periods, slightly lower rainfall as well. So it's going to be a bit drier and cooler. So you've got the spring, March through February, March, early April, May, it starts to get hot. And then, you miss out the summer where it's going to be hot and wet. And if you travel in October, November, which was when I was there, is the rice harvest at the end of November in the north. And into December, it's going to start to be towards their winter and cooling down as well. Again, there is a lot of variation between the more mountainous north and center versus the south, but spring and fall.
Okay. Darren, can you talk to us about airport transfers? There was a question about sort of what happens when we land in Vietnam. Can you support getting us to the start of the tour? What do we do when we arrive?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll be able to arrange for an airport transfer on the regular itineraries and classic itineraries like what I went on. The airport transfers aren't included, but we can book them and they're very affordable. It makes your life so much easier to just be able to walk out of the airport arrivals area and see somebody who's only going to sign with your name on it. They will pick you up, they will take your luggage, they'll bring you to your hotel safely and soundly. On the Nat Geo itineraries, the airport transfers are included on some of them. So depending on the itinerary that you book, some of them are included, some of them aren't. But either way, we'll be able to make sure that your airport transfers we'll be able to make sure that you get picked up at the airport safe and sound. And what usually happens at the end of the tours is the departure transfers aren't normally included. And I've experienced this on all of the trips, is by the time that you get to the end of the itinerary, you're pretty much best friends with all 15 or 12 people that are on the tour. So more than likely there's other people in the group that are going to be going to the airport at the same time as you. So your guide, your Geometrics CEO will coordinate with you and other group members getting you to the airport. So there's no worry about how you're going to get to the airport or from the airport. It's all taken care of. We can help out with that.
Okay, great. Gary, two questions to you. One, any issues traveling with a CPAP machine or I guess extra luggage?
Yeah, so in most of the, it depends on the specific itinerary, but most of the time you do have access to electricity. I would say that there would be disruptions to that because, you know, the infrastructure in parts of Vietnam is not as robust as it is in North America. Potentially the overnight train, potentially if you're staying in the local homestay in Mae Chau, you know, while you're on the Ha Long Bay River cruise, you know, there's times where there could be interruptions to power. And so I would say that we would want to